Hi, thanks for joining me today. Can I ask you a question? Have you ever had an idea that you were really excited about, something you just truly wanted to do, and months later it was still just an idea? Maybe it's creating a journal or affirmation cards, a children's workbook, or party supplies for your child or for a grandbaby, a planner, a printable. Maybe you've been collecting AI images thinking, someday I'm going to do something with these. Or maybe you've been buying clip art, fonts, or stock photos because you could already picture what they might become one day. If any of that sounds familiar, you're in good company. I've done every single one of those things. I have notebooks full of ideas, Google Docs, sticky notes, voice memos, random scraps of paper that I don't even know what they mean anymore. And for years, I lived in fear that all my browser tabs would accidentally close. I'm only half kidding. I still go through that a little bit, out of sight, out of mind, right? Anyway, why do so many creative ideas stay ideas? I think there are two big reasons. And now, before we go any further, I want to mention something. You might be thinking, I've been creating for years. This really doesn't apply to me. Maybe not exactly, but I found that these challenges show up whether you're creating your very first project or your 50th. They just show up differently. When you're new, you might think, I don't know enough yet. I just can't start. Later, it becomes, this has to be really good. Or maybe I should change just one more thing. Or I'm really not sure it's ready yet. Different thoughts, same result. We stop moving forward. The first one has nothing to do with creativity. It has to do with perfectionism, imposter syndrome, and worrying about what other people are going to think. Without even realizing it, we put so much pressure on one little project. We don't just want to make a journal, we want to make the journal, the one people rave about, the one that proves we can really do this, the one that finally makes all the time we've spent learning AI worthwhile. Well, that's a heavy burden for one little project to carry. The second reason is we think we have to know everything before we begin, not just what we're making, but exactly how it all unfolds. Every page, every image, every detail, every step, exactly how to use the tools. And honestly, that's not how creativity works. One of my favorite examples is something I created myself. I sat down one day thinking I was simply making a resource to help people come up with better image prompts. Nothing fancy, just something useful. In fact, it kind of started as a checklist. I knew what the project was, that part was clear, but I had no idea where it would eventually lead. As I kept working, it grew into a workbook, then it grew into a prompt generator, and became something much more helpful than I ever imagined when I first opened that blank document. Here's what I learned. Choosing the project and knowing every detail are two completely different things. In fact, I teach people to choose the project before you start creating the images or figuring out what tool you're going to use or any of that. That's important, but choosing the project doesn't mean you have to know every asset you'll create, every page you'll include, or every way it might grow. Some of those discoveries happen because you're creating, not before. I knew I was creating a prompt resource. I just didn't know on day one that it would eventually include a workbook and a generator. Those discoveries happened because I was doing the work. Now, there's something really important I want to say here. Leave room for your ideas to grow because they probably will. But don't let growth become an excuse to keep changing directions. There's a difference. Adding to a project because you've discovered a better way to serve people or even yourself, that's growth. Starting over every other week because you've had another exciting idea, that's usually avoidance, wearing a very creative disguise. I've been there, and here's what I've learned. Follow through is what builds confidence, not planning, not brainstorming, not collecting 100 ideas. Following one idea all the way through. Because every time you do, you become someone who knows, I can do this. A few months ago, I was helping someone who wanted to create designs for her Etsy shop. She thought what she needed was help writing prompts. And, she probably did. But as we talked, I realized something. She wasn't actually sure what belonged in the prompt. She was thinking about the finished project instead of the image that would go on the project. Once we backed up and focused on the next creative decision, everything changed for her. The prompt suddenly became much easier because she knew what she was actually asking AI to create. That conversation stayed with me because I realized it really wasn't about prompts. It's about having someone help you think through the next step, one creative decision at a time. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about learning AI. So many people tell themselves, I need to learn AI. I don't actually think that's the best place to start. I think you learn AI by creating. Pick one small project, something that sounds fun. Maybe it's a set of affirmation cards or a printable. Maybe it's clip art, a journal, a gift. And as you create it, you naturally learn prompting. You start recognizing what makes a beautiful image. You begin developing an eye for design. You build visual vocabulary, discover what works and what doesn't. You're learning AI skills while creating something meaningful at the same time. That's a whole lot more fun than trying to memorize prompts on a blank screen or creating an image and going, yeah, that's nice, putting it in a folder and leaving it there. I think it's a whole lot more effective too. And that's exactly why I created Creative Compass. Not because people need another AI tool and not because writing prompts is the hardest part. I created it because I've realized that what most people need is direction. They need someone to help them think through the project before they start creating. Imagine waking up with an idea. Instead of opening your AI image generator and wondering, okay, what now? Instead, you have someone helping you think through it. What are you creating? Who is it for? What images will you actually need? What style fits the feeling you're trying to create? What details will make it feel thoughtful instead of generic? What should you create first for this project? One decision naturally leads to the next until suddenly you're not staring at a blank screen anymore. You're creating with confidence because you know where you're headed. One of the things I love most about Creative Compass is that it meets you where you are. If you're brand new to AI or to creating digital products, it will walk beside you, helping you think through each creative decision one step at a time. And if you've been creating for years and you're thinking, well, I already know what I want, let's just build it. It can do that too. Sometimes you want a creative coach, and sometimes you want just a creative partner who can keep up with your ideas. Creative Compass was designed for both. Maybe you already know exactly what you're creating. Great. It helps you map out everything you'll need to bring that idea to life. Or maybe all you know is, I think I'd like to make something with hummingbirds on it. Well, that's okay too. Sometimes all you need is someone asking the right questions until the ideas start taking shape. Because here's something I've learned. Clarity doesn't arrive before we begin. It shows up while we're moving forward. You can't steer a ship that's sitting in the harbor. It has to be moving before you can steer it and before you can go anywhere. Our creative projects are a lot like that. And that's also why Creative Compass isn't just for one kind of project. Maybe you're creating affirmation cards or a children's workbook. Maybe you're creating a planner or a journal. Maybe you want to create wall art for your new grandbaby's nursery or for your child. Perhaps you want to make stickers, printables. Maybe you're a business owner and you want a lead magnet to attract people to your business. Maybe you're writing a blog or something you haven't even thought of yet. The project might be different, but the process is remarkably similar. You start with an idea. You don't have to figure out the entire project. You just have to figure out the next decision, and then the next, and then another, until one day you're holding something that used to exist only in your imagination. I still think that's a little magical. And here's something else I hope happens. Yes, I hope you create beautiful projects. I hope you fill an Etsy shop if that's what you want to do, or start a business, or make thoughtful gifts for the people you love in your life. I hope all that happens. But also, I hope something even bigger happens. I hope you start trusting yourself again, because every project you follow through on becomes evidence. Evidence that you can learn something new, evidence that you can finish what you start, evidence that maybe you're more creative than you've been giving yourself credit for. That kind of confidence doesn't come from watching another video. It comes from creating. And that's really what Beautiful Creative You has always been about. Not just teaching AI, helping women discover what's possible, learning the tools while creating something meaningful, one creative project at a time. So if you've been sitting on an idea and you've been waiting until you knew enough or waiting until you felt ready, maybe this is your sign to pick one project, not five, one. Follow it through, see what happens, because here's what I know. The next project will be easier, and the one after that will be easier still. Not because the projects get simpler, trust me, they won't, but because you'll have something you didn't have before. Proof that you can do this. If you'd like a little help figuring out those next creative steps, I'd love to introduce you to Creative Compass. It's like having a creative partner beside you, helping you turn that idea in your head into something real. One decision, one image, one finished project at a time. I also have a community. I'd love to have you join. I'll link those things down below. I look forward to hearing from you. Look forward to helping you create. Thanks so much for being here. We'll talk to you soon. Until next time, keep creating. Bye-bye for now.